Welcome to another Mooncolony stream. We are so excited to be here. You may have noticed that I am not your usual host, Jaden. I don't have the big magnificent beard for one, but maybe one day. We'll see. My name is Katie. I'm a production coordinator at Mooncolony, and today I'll be your host because it's a very, very, very special day today. It's International Women's Day. Woo! Happy International Women's Day. Today is a day of celebrating women everywhere around the world in all different roles, professional or personal. It's a day of lifting up our sisters and our mothers and our friends, colleagues, really kind of recognizing the amazing people they are and the fantastic work that they do. On the screen now, speaking of, you should be able to see, we'll be cycling through it for the entirety of the stream today, some amazing work all created by women as a part of Mooncolony. So these are some really extra special pieces that our female artists have made throughout the years, so please enjoy them and check out our artist portfolios. They are incredible. It's a really important day today to kind of reflect on some of the challenges faced by women throughout their careers, and understand that these are often very different from our male counterparts. So it's a day to think about the things that we still need to work on as an industry to kind of combat this. And because of this, myself and these lovely, lovely women at Mooncolony, we've banded together to bring you a Q&A stream today. So collectively, we've learned all kinds of different tips and tricks to help us professionally in a field that can feel pretty against us at times still. So I hope that we can kind of have a conversation today to share some of that knowledge with you all. But before these lovely ladies introduce themselves, which I'm going to get them to do, I'd love to invite anybody watching to please post any questions that you might have in the Twitch chat. I'm pointing that way, but I think it's actually that way or that way. And we will do our best to get around to answering them during the stream. But that's everything from me for now. Here are the lovely, badass, amazing Mooncolony ladies, a little coven of Mooncolonists. Welcome, guys. It's so great to have you here.
Thanks for having us, Katie.
Oh, well, thanks for doing this. No worries, no worries. Now that you're all here, and now that we've sorted out any tech issues, hopefully, I would love to begin by going around each of you and doing a little introduction, if that's okay. So it would be awesome if you could tell everybody your name, your role at Mooncolony, and also follow it up with who's your favorite female game character, if you've got one, and why. I guess I'll start above me. Christina is above me where I can see, so I'd love to start with Christina.
I've got the stream open as well, so I'm actually on the right, opposite you, slightly down. But hi, my name's Christina. I'm the marketing manager at Mooncolony. Some of you might recognize me from the early days of the Discord server, in the yesteryear before Jaden. And my favorite video game character, female video game character, is probably FemShep, so the female shepherd that you can play in Mass Effect. I think she's fab. I love Jennifer Hale, who's the voice actress. She's absolutely amazing. And yeah, Mass Effect's a great series, and she's just like the best. You know, I've played it as the male shepherd, and it just doesn't feel right. You know, it just feels so wrong.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you, Christina. Next up for me, we've got Melissa. I don't know where she's positioned on the screen, but Melissa.
Hello, can you hear me now? I didn't know you are all in other meetings, so I was confused for that. I'm senior concept artist. I'm making illustration on Hearthstone, the skins, the boards, whatever they need. I'm up for it. For the favorite character, I don't have favorites for anything. The other day, they asked for favorite movie. I'm like, I don't know. The recent one I played and I really liked is like Princess Zelda. It's like stereotypical, but it's not really damsel in distress, because I try not to spoil, but when you figure out what she did in the Tears of the Kingdom, she did so great sacrifice, and yeah, rarely anybody could do something big like that for others.
It's amazing. Melissa is also like our Mooncolony Queen of Dragons, like our very own kind of like Daenerys. So yeah, she rocks being a woman from Mooncolony in that kind of way. But next up on my screen is Amy.
Hello, I'm Amy. I am senior producer here at Mooncolony, which basically means that I work with Katie in production across pretty much all the projects coming in or in production at Mooncolony, and just trying to keep things going. And my favorite character, I was thinking hard about this, and it might be a little bit stereotypical, but actually Lara Croft, can't go wrong with Lara Croft, right? And I think back when I was little, so I've got all these old siblings, and I used to sit on my brother's lap. He was like in his 20s and I was like 6, and we were playing like Doom and Quake and all these sorts of things. And then at some point he introduced me to the first Tomb Raider, and it stuck. I was just like, look at this badass woman who can do anything, and she's pretty, she's cool, and she just doesn't take any can I swear, any bad stuff, and then she can also lock Winston in the freezer, and I was like, just winning at life, right? So I thought I just had to go for her.
Yeah, get that creepy guy in there. He's pretty creepy.
He's pretty creepy.
He is creepy. Why he follows you all the time?
Little tray.
That's it.
Amazing.
Put the creepy guys in the freezer.
Brilliant. If there's one takeaway from this entire stream, brilliant. Jill, you're up next for me.
Hello, so I'm Jill. I am the talent acquisition manager at Mooncolony. Some of you might have seen me on stream once or twice before, so we're doing, I guess, context as to how to get into the industry, and ultimately, I guess, my responsibility in the business is finding all this incredible, awesome talent that come to work with us and produce all this awesome work. So I've gone similar to Amy. I've went classic and I've gone Lara Croft. But for me, it's like the 2013 version rather than the 1996 version. Just, I think when you look at the kind of a difference in design and clothing, especially like the cargo pants, are just way more practical for like all the crazy, mad, extreme physical activities that she gets up to. And I just have got lots of memories of playing that when it first came out. And spending way too long like swinging on ropes trying to get across ditches and crevices and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, that was the one that kind of resonated most with me, just from that sort of a memory of playing it when I used to play lots of video games. Lara Croft is.
She's kick-ass. Yeah, she's awesome. She's so cool. Thank you, Jill. And then finally I got Rin.
Yeah, hi guys, my name is Rin and I'm an associate art director here in Mooncolony. So I am struggling with picking one favorite female character. Thank God it at least cuts them in half, like not all characters, but just female characters. But then I'm still struggling because I've been playing video games and computer games since I was 5 years old, I think. So I would join Christina on FemShep, but as for my personal ones, my one very, very favorite female character is Gladys from Portal, because she's just such a role model, such a boss. She does what she wants, and she's slightly unhinged, which I love. And the second one will probably be Kerrigan, because she's like the epitome of like the woman being different from the rest and being like shunned from her regular environment, being like first a human sniper, like a human ghost, but then becoming a Zerg, and that she still has a very faithful ally on her side who can see past her scales and tentacles and everything. So and slimy bros that she now has. So yeah, I think those will be my two heroes. Brilliant.
I like that you mentioned that Gladys is only slightly unhinged, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. I mean, she can I spoil this? Like, it's a very old game, but like she turns out to be more reasonable than some of the modules in the end, who are kind of represented as male modules. So
yeah, it's all about perspective, right?
It's all about perspective as well. Yeah, but like I love how like sassy she is.
Definitely.
Her on potato, make her first learn to
Yes, Gladys in the potato body. Yeah, it was so good.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I guess I already kind of introduced myself at the beginning, but I'm Katie. I'm a production coordinator at Mooncolony, and I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy VII Remake recently, and I think my favorite current kind of female character is Tifa from that. I think she's cool, and I think she's tough, but in like a way that kind of she doesn't have this need to like lean into like a tomboyish persona or like a masculine persona. She's just like, she's allowed to be very feminine, like at the same time, but you just look at Tifa and you go, oh man, she's cool, she's really tough. So yeah, I think she's mine at the moment. It changes all the time. But thank you so much, you guys. Thanks for introducing yourselves. It's so great to have you here. I would like to follow that up with asking a little bit more about all of your separate journeys into the industry. I can imagine they're all quite different. So it'd be great if you could tell us a little bit about the steps you took to get where you are now. Let's start. I'm just going to pick somebody at random. Let's start with Amy, if that's okay.
Yeah, so I kind of had just like getting into the industry was probably one of the hardest points of my career, and I think that's resonate unfortunately with a lot of people. I moved to the UK from South Africa after I graduated, and the life of me couldn't get a job. Nobody wanted to hire someone with no experience. So I spent 9 months my partner, boyfriend at the time, would go out to work, and I would do my due diligence and make sure I sent off 5 to 10 applications in the morning so that I could spend the rest of the day playing World of Warcraft before he got home. And it was really hard. It's really hard kind of trying to break into something, especially, you know, I've been in the industry almost 15 years now, and it's like it's grown so much and there's so many more opportunities, but at the time there was like, you know, very, very little. And being a recent graduate, yeah, it was just really hard. But I was lucky to that a company were desperate and needed a role filled quickly, and seeing as my World of Warcraft character would still be there waiting, I said, yes, I can do that immediately. And I landed a role as production assistant. I think production is quite often quite female oriented. You know, there's quite a lot of women who choose to go into or end up in production, because we're very well organized individuals, I would say. But having said that, I think, you know, a lot of my career, it's hard to it's been hard to grow because I am quite quiet and shy. Even if I can talk too much, but it's always been quite hard to find my voice, right, and to find that way to kind of like find what I want to say in environments where, even though production is quite, you know, female oriented, the rest of the project isn't, you know, between your directors, at the time it was CG supervisors, art directors, clients, everyone, and it's all a lot of loud voices, because you reach a certain level and you do have a strong opinion and you do have a lot to say and you do believe that you're right, and I think they're coming from being quite quiet and unsure of myself, and even when I was sure of myself, finding the words to say, but I have this little opinion over here, and I think that's something that I am very proud of how far I've come, and it's something that, you know, you can only work on yourself, but I still got a lot of work to do within it, right? So yes, that's kind of the kind of hardships, I guess, across the career. But yes, I kind of did a lot of CG work, and very lucky to have landed in Mooncolony in this role with these lovely team here, and a great team in the background who are not on the screen.
Exactly. And no, you're kicking ass, Amy. Like, it's so it's so good to have you here.
Don't make me blush too much.
Sorry. How many times can I say kick ass in one streamer? But no, that's great. Thank you so much. Next up for me is Christina. We want to find a bit about your journey.
I mean, I've only really been in like the games industry for about 2 years. So it's more like kind of my journey into marketing, and to be honest, it just never was really presented as an option at school. Like, I don't think I ever, like, it was never said, oh, you know, there's this like kind of like I wanted to do something creative, but it wasn't very arty, so it kind of fits all those you know, nice things. But I always wanted to work in games, so I picked a degree that kind of hit on a lot of different things. So we did graphic design, we did sound design, we did film. We also, there was a module that was specific to video games. By the time I actually enrolled, they removed that part from the course because it wasn't popular enough, so I was absolutely gutted. But I still then kind of basically made sure that every single module I did, I orientated towards games. So we did, you know, a lot of research into fan cultures and online fan cultures. So I did mine on the Skyrim fandom, and that's it was very early days for Discord back then as well. So I was kind of like analyzing Discord, which was super fun. But then I realized when I graduated that it was just impossible to get a job in the games industry unless you lived in London or LA or, you know, like a city, or and I wasn't prepared to move. So I ended up working in a huge variety of different industries, you know, from medical, disinfectant, building, watches and jewelry, schools. I mean, it's like a huge, very eclectic background basically. And then just one day I saw the job advert at Mooncolony, and I just thought to myself, you know, that sounds absolutely perfect. It came up as a recommendation on LinkedIn, and I was like, oh my god, it's in Cambridge. So I went for it, and then the rest is history. So yeah, here we are.
I love that, and I think it like just goes to show that you can have like a really varied background before you come into working with games. There's no like one route into it, you know. I think that's
absolutely.
really
I think what was quite important in my application, if you don't have, you know, industry experience, this applies to every industry basically, is mentioning, you know, your passion for it, any other sorts of experiences in your like a personal statement or something, you know, like a letter to the, you know, the person you're applying to. Make it really personal, make it about the company, because if you don't have that industry experience, and it's almost a prerequisite to getting into the industry, that's your way in basically, because it's one of those things where you need the experience to get the experience, and then it's like this never-ending cycle. But I think that's like a good piece of advice that I was given. So
definitely, thank you so much, that's brilliant. Melissa, what about you? Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into the industry?
Prepare smallest violin to cry for the sad story. So I would always love to draw and play games, but I never had any real money so I can pursue that school or try something of it. So I went to the IT school, like engineer college, and they would get you a really small loan. It wouldn't cover too much, but it was useful to buy food, get around. And I get 2 months at once. I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm ordering small game tools, because just before that I figured out, oh, the art can be done digitally. I didn't have idea how art was made for games. And I bought that one and I started drawing. And it wasn't more than a year about. I started earning money and commissions. And then I would get better commission. I would get returning clients. I would learn more stuff, how to draw this, how to draw that, the values, whatever. And then bit by bit, I would get better jobs. And then it started, as I finished school, it started to be a full-time job. So my parents finally could say, oh, he can earn money from art. We were broke. And it's been 10 years since around 10 years since I bought my first tablet and started working on. And it's been nothing than a nice experience for me drawing for games. Only thing that for today is what we can talk. The people didn't realize by default, they're like, oh, dude, this is awesome. Oh man, this is great art. I'm like, okay, time to show my face.
Amazing. Did you have like a cool reaction when you did that? Were people quite shocked?
Yeah. They were like, oh, I didn't realize you're a girl. Oh, you're a girl. And you have fangs. So
amazing. What a compliment, huh? Amazing. I love it. Thank you, Melissa. And happy 10-year Drawing for Games anniversary. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Rian, what about you?
Yeah, I think it was kind of similar to many of artists out there, but when I was a kid, I liked drawing, but no one really took it seriously. Even I didn't take it seriously. I wanted to draw illustrations for like biology books, but I was kind of suspicious that they will all be long illustrated when I grow up. So I was kind of mad about that. But then I think my biggest supporter of all times, who I really appreciate, my father. He showed me the gaming world basically when I was very little, and he, like a partisan, he was like, you know what, someone draws those. So he planted the seed, and then when I was like around 16 years old, he bought me an Intuos. And it was lying and gathering dust for a while because everyone else in my family and around me said, like, this is not a job, this is a hobby. So now you need to focus on getting a real job, getting the education and all that. And I tried, but I dropped out of 2 universities that I started just as a courtesy towards my parents, because every time it just was a choice between me continuing to draw or continue to study, and I chose draw 2 times. And now I'm a little bit sad that I had to spend that time for the universities I didn't vibe with, didn't like. But yeah, and I was kind of lucky that there was a studio in my home city. It was just one of the offices of Mail.ru Group, and I joined the Voronezh office of that one, and I worked on a lots of line, and there were so many amazing people working there, and I treat my time there as my kind of education, basically, because I literally learned everything that I know about game development right straight from working in this industry. It's stressful, but it's fun, but it's very stressful. I worked for several years as a freelancer and then moved to UK and joined Mooncolony. And I joined Mooncolony just purely because it was again a coincidence. Emma was looking for a full-time artist, and I happened to be in Cambridge at the time. And we were like, well, it's match made in heaven. So here I am 5 years later, almost. It will be 5 years next month.
Oh, amazing. That's incredible. What a coincidence. That really is a match made. I can think of like a more perfect artist for the time, that's awesome. Really cool. Thank you, Rin. And lastly, Jill, can you tell us a bit about your journey?
Sure. Yeah, so I guess I studied English and sociology at university, but graduated and wasn't really kind of sure where I wanted to go from there. I kind of settled on a loose idea of getting into some kind of media production. So I kind of worked, normal 9 to 5 jobs for a couple of years, and then spotted this creative media course advertised. I think it was in the local newspaper at the time, bearing in mind this was like 2003, and applied for that, got accepted to it, and at the end of that creative media course, you were guaranteed some kind of, it was like a work placement for a month. And lo and behold, I got placed in an animation studio.
Oh, awesome.
And it was like just a crazy eye opener. Like it was in Glasgow, it was in the city centre, and it was just like an environment I could never have imagined enjoying, because I always felt like I was going to be out and about, and maybe was into writing, so I thought maybe I'll be a journalist and I'd be out interviewing people and all this kind of stuff, and then went from that into this animation studio, dark, everyone sitting in front of a screen, headphones on, and it was such an alien environment, but I totally fell in love with it, and I was hired at the end of that work placement as a production assistant, production coordinator. Stayed in that studio for 6 or 7 years, and then kind of worked up to be a producer, production manager type role. Moved over to another studio where I worked with Amy for a number of years, and kind of my skill set, I guess, evolved and expanded, and moved away from production and moved into talent and recruitment and HR and operations and all these kind of I guess like support roles, but they're the kind of things that keep studios running and studios ticking over, but at the same time you get to work alongside all these incredibly talented people, and you get to play some small part in that, and you have this enormous pride when you see the work that your teams have made. And yeah, fast forward 12 years in that business to Mooncolony. It's almost been 2 years since I've been here now, and the 2 years I think that I've been here, I can see a massive change in the studio in terms of the scale of it and the talent that are working with us, and the projects and the output that we're producing. It's we're going from strength to strength, and the talent that we have is just incredible. And yeah, it's just a privilege to be here and kind of hear how everyone's gotten here, and the work that we're going to continue doing.
Absolutely. You find the best of the best, Jill. You really do. it's really good.
I have a little help at times.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. As far as myself, I've had a very, very short kind of journey into games, but I graduated from a game design course during COVID. I was one of 3 girls who graduated in that entire cohort, which was still pretty large. But I graduated during COVID, which was tough because nobody was hiring. Nobody wanted anybody. But that kind of gave me the opportunity to do like a couple of indie freelance game design stuff. So I learned a lot during that. I shortly worked for a games nonprofit, helping people to get getting marginalized folks into jobs in games. So that was like really rewarding, but I kind of always had this itch to be involved in something more creative. So now I'm here, and I just get to be, surrounded by really amazing people and awesome artwork, and couldn't be happier. So it's great. Thank you, guys. I think we've quite naturally landed onto my next question, which is that I wanted to ask you all if there were any obstacles you faced throughout your journey in this industry, and how you overcame them, or if you learned any pretty cool lessons from them. I think it's quite a large question, so I'd like to invite anybody who wants to speak up about it first, if anybody kind of has anything to say about that, or I'll just pick on someone. But
I can start.
Right, Lorraine, continue. Well, I'll go quickly because I kind of jumped ahead and answered some of that and that. But I think kind of one of when I was thinking about this, there's this thing that I was recalled about being told to be less emotional, and like throughout my career, but definitely there was earlier points where it was like, don't be so emotional about this or that or the next thing. My mentor, who we'll talk about later, was told to not care about me as much, about all these sorts of things. And it's to me, I look back on all of that when I start to think about like being a woman in the industry, being a woman, right? I am emotional, and maybe I'm more emotional than some, but I do carry that, and it was really disheartening very early on to be told that is a negative, that is something I must push away, and that I just must be matter of fact and move through things. And it's taken a long time to kind of unlearn that and say, do you know what? I am emotional, and I will put my whole heart into things, and that is not a bad thing. That is something that I look for in everyone I want to work with. Should put that same amount of love and care. We should show that same amount of love and care to each other, just on a human level, because work is fun, but it's also it's life, and it's like we should all just get along. I don't know, that sounds so corny when you say it like that, but it's such a deep-rooted thing no matter where you work, I think, and what you're doing, that we're told just be less woman, and I think that's something that we need to overcome, and something certainly that I'm still trying to, but something I fully support in everyone. If I can anytime we can talk, and I will be in tears. I was reading my child a book last night, and I was in tears, and she's just like, "Are you crying?" And I was like, yes. It's the beauty of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like imagine it's crazy saying like be less emotional, but in like a professional capacity. Like it's like which percentage of your life? It's a massive percentage. That's my Okay, well, thank you so much, Amy. I don't know, Rin, did you want to speak up on that next?
I'm actually very happy that Amy went first, because she went with such a heartwarming statement, honestly, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. And I've been told things to that degree my whole life. And the question, why are you crying, was a very, very frequent one. But it just, I agree, it just shows that I care. And I think the only capacity that you need to limit your emotions, not limit your emotions, but just control them, to just be reasonable, to just, so don't allow it to paralyze you with a certain kind of emotion, and don't allow it to just undermine your job and your professional duties that you're supposed to be capable of. And other than that, I am all up for it, and I'm very happy to work with people who understand that in Mooncolony. But yeah, I would add that there are just hardships in terms of there is a huge disconnect in Russia and in many countries that have similar problems. There are lots of women when we study, if you go to the art school or if you go to the university. I went to the first university that was an architectural one. Most of the students were female students. There were just a couple of male students there, but when we go to work, the proportion changes just 180 degrees. So there are just a couple of women in the company of any given kind, especially in the game development. And I don't know how it happens exactly, but I think it's all sorts of cultural expectations that are being put in certain types of societies still on women. So I had to fight against it, even though my family is relatively they don't really make difference between different genders. It was just high achieving family rather than that, golden medals and everything, A+ students and everything like that. So it wasn't that gender motivated. But I think even just from the colloquial phrases in my culture, you will be told that no one will marry you if you get this stupid job. No one will marry you because of this, because of that. And also there is a level of superstition on top, don't sit on the corner of the table or you won't get married. And it raises such a protest in you, so you sit on every corner that you can possibly find, you try to get in every single hole that is not meant for you, basically. So that was kind of how I was getting into game development, beside my genuine love to gaming. I was playing games, as I mentioned, since I was 5 years old, and for the rest of my life, sometimes more, sometimes less, but nonetheless, it's what I've been doing all the time. So I really wanted to be a part of the development.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I got there, but also there I struggled to find a balance of how much girliness I can allow myself. And sometimes the easiest way to adapt is to become a bro to everyone that you work with. And I'm still unsure that it's a good way about it. It can be to a degree, so you don't need to force the either masculine or feminine part of you, but kind of you need to find a comfortable spot for you to be mentally in this kind of sense. And I struggled with that quite a bit. So yeah, there is a variety of struggles that are hard to put in words, but this is just an overwhelming feeling of that you are not sure you're supposed to be there. You are not sure how you're being perceived and if you're being perceived and taken seriously. And this is just a hard place to navigate and to find the way you can be yourself, you can be comfortable with yourself, and to make sure that you are respected as a professional. So yeah, I think those are my 5 cents.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. I really resonates with me. I think we were talking, the other day, and I said, I, especially during my university, my time at university was all boys, and I really tried to fit in and be perceived as one of the guys, or not the other girls, or something like that. But and I really thought I did a good job of it. But one day somebody just said something completely offhand. And that really was a really unfunny joke that was actually probably quite degrading. And it was it was just that moment that makes you feel all of this work that I've done to make myself feel like somebody else is. They never saw me like that anyway. So it's then it's just being comfortable with just being yourself, and but you're also kind of met with how do I I feel the need to prove myself still as a girl in this situation, right? So I really understand that.
And it's both coming from inside and from outside. So I'm not saying that literally all of these problems are coming from just the colleagues or something like that. It might not even come from the company. You can work in a very nice company, but you can still have this weight of the years that you've been questioning every single move, every single word that you make, that you will have to again work on yourself and again find this comfortable spot for you to work even in a very nice company.
Definitely. Thank you, Rin. Perfect. I can move on, and unless anybody else wants to speak in that point, I can move on to a new question.
I think just to echo some of the sentiments from Amy and Rin, I think it's no surprise that we've all found ourselves in male-dominated environments, given the industry and the kind of pathways that we've all taken and rooted through where we've gotten to today. And I think it's just important to, I guess, acknowledge that will probably continue to be the sort of environment that women continue to find themselves in. But I guess the purpose of the call today is to try and give some guidance and advice as to how to deal with it, because I think we need to be realistic that it's not something that's gonna, it's probably improved, but even as recently as maybe 8 years ago, I used to sit in heads of department meetings. I was the only woman in it, and there would be a meeting with 10 other guys and me, and it was a challenge to, not through lack of confidence, but I think it was a self-esteem thing that I wasn't always speaking up when I could or should or ought to, for fear of not being listened to or sort of being rejected, and it's not necessarily that happened, but it's more like a sort of a personal, you're holding yourself back because you don't necessarily feel validated within that situation to talk up and have a valid opinion listened to and taken on board. So a lot of the time I would find myself kind of hanging back, and I think it's important to help lift women up to a point where they feel their contributions valid within those situations, because those situations and environments, especially within more male-dominated industries and environments, that women can speak up and feel they have a valid opinion.
Definitely. Thank you, Jill. That's really important to say. Thank you so much. I'll move on in I guess, kind of speaking of lifting women up. This might be one for maybe more Rin and Melissa, but also applies to all of us. I wanted to kind of turn it around a bit and maybe hear if you guys had any inspirations, maybe any women who particularly inspired you in the field of growing up, or maybe if you think that there's currently any women who are really making some cool waves in the industry. So I might pass that one to Rin first, if that's all right.
Sure, I can start. So I think the problem with my becoming an artist was that I was growing up in the situation when the internet was not that available as it is right now. So I started learning when I couldn't just freely go and explore the possibilities and look at other women making art. So most of the stuff that was available for me was books, basically. So my first role models, I would say they were book authors. So I always kind of held near and dear to my heart Astrid Lindgren and Tove Jansson. So those are two amazing authors of kids' books that I still love dearly. And I think they just managed to create their own universes and their own worlds. And it sounds quirky, but this is how I perceived that and how I felt about it. So I was kind of thinking at that time, well, I will be very, very happy, and I will kind of like die happy if I achieve the same level of just world creation as Astrid Lindgren did, for example. But then slowly internet started coming, and my main mistake was not to be brave enough to go to the English-speaking forums. So I mostly was hanging around on the Russian-speaking forums, but there are some prominent women artists who I was following from those days, like very old Russian forums about CG art, and one of them is Elena Bespalova. You might know her by the nickname of Hellstern. Check her out; she is absolutely amazing. She worked on variety of projects, and yeah, just the skill level is absolutely amazing. And another one is Ekaterina Burmak. She currently works, I believe, predominantly on the MTG cards. And this is just such a solid, like, fantasy painting that, yeah, it's totally worth checking out. But there are so many more and so many other female creators. I can't really mention all of them, but I will try to mention at least some of them. Of course, I think most of you know Lois van Baarle. She's an icon. She knew what to do with her following on the DeviantArt, which is on the contrary to me. I didn't know what to do with social media. So I literally just left like several thousand people just like, bye. I don't know how to develop this kind of relationship. And she knew, and she did a very nice job. And I think she did an amazing job on just showing what a woman can do in this industry. She makes books, she does speeches, she creates in a very recognizable style, and it's very feminine, if I'm to say so. And she still worked even in the like very like not stylized, not female oriented games like Horizon Zero Dawn, for example. Eloy is her design. So yeah, that really makes me happy. There are several other people that I want to mention. I don't know how to fit it all. Like, honestly, like, for example, Anna Podedvorna. I hope I pronounce her name right, but she has such a like nice and again classic brutal fantasy painting style. She paints for Gwent. She worked in CD Projekt Red. I believe now she doesn't work there anymore, but still. And it's just fascinating to look at her work. So yeah. I think I will pass it to Melissa, because I literally want to just name names and continue, and I'm getting lost in all those names because there are so many amazing women artists out there.
For the balance of universe, I'm gonna name only one name. I'm really bad at remembering any name. If I met you, I'm gonna forget. But I think you can see up there, that's Carla Ortiz. And as a person, I really admire her because she's full of life. She can talk. She will do like the Marvel movies concept, then she will do traditional paintings in gallery. Now she's fighting for all the copyright artist rights in the courts. She's just amazing person, and it's not just an artist. She's doing all this outside. Most of us are just sitting in our rooms drawing. She's going outside doing other stuff too.
Amazing, thank you guys. And what about Amy, Jill, or Christina? Do you have anybody that you really look up to in this industry or any kind of surrounding industries?
Yeah, I mean, I've got someone, Amy Smith. She's like the global director of recruitment and outreach, I think is her title at Framestore. And she's been like a total trailblazer for diversity and inclusion within, you know, the visual effects and animation industry specifically. Bear in mind that was a kind of the space that I came from prior to Mooncolony. I don't know if you guys have heard of Access VFX, but she's like a non-exec director there. And yeah, she kind of champions the support between education and industry and trying to kind of close that skills gap. And I think there is a skills gap, which is a whole different conversation in stream probably, but there's a skills gap between you know, those coming out of education and trying to get into the industry, and you know, we have to all work together to close that skills gap so that artists are coming ready for work. And she's been a trailblazer and trying to work with industry and education to close that gap, and to the point where she has worked closely with Next Gen Skills Academy to launch, I think, the first of its kind VFX apprenticeships. So yeah, like just on a personal level, in terms of her commitment to the industry and trying to lift up the talent that's coming into it, that entry level talent, like that's something that I really admire. And yeah, she's does an incredible job. So yeah, that's who's on my list.
Thank you, Jill. She sounds so cool. Sounds amazing. I've got one from my side just to mention, just because it's something that I personally love. There's a podcast out there called She Plays Games. You can find it on Spotify. I think it's on a bunch of other kind of streaming channels as well. But it's run by an old colleague of mine and an absolute industry powerhouse, Lauren Kay. She kind of basically does what we're doing now. She interviews kind of all different kinds of women in different positions in games, so artists, programmers, accessibility leads, and all kinds of people, to find out how they got where they are. And yeah, like I said, basically what we're doing now. But it kind of breaks down the industry for women, and you know, she kind of identifies loads of little different paths for women in the industry. So that's my personal pick. I've listened to all of the episodes. I'm a nerd about it. I love it.
I'm awesome. Saving link.
Yes, yeah. I'll send it. Yeah.
I forgot to say mine. It's going to be a very corny answer, so apologies in advance. But I'd say in terms of inspiration, especially kind of like professionally, I think my mum is like a really big inspiration. And I know it's Mother's Day, so it's like a nice little shout out. But it's this Sunday, isn't it? Not in the US, but in the UK. Just in case I made anyone panic. Don't worry, if you're in the UK, panic. But yeah, I think, you know, when you get older, you don't really realize like the amount of sacrifices that your mum makes, especially, you know, I look back and I think, gosh, she had, you know, a full-time job and she was raising children at the same time. How could she do it? You know, I struggled to keep my house clean and, you know, look after my dog, make sure he gets walked. I mean, that's like so minimal compared to having, you know, 3 children, sometimes 5, because I got step brothers as well. So, you know, just, you know, hats off to her. And, you know, even though she took her, you know, when she had my youngest brother, she took a break from work, but she's returned from work, you know, after having that long gap, which I think a lot of people don't really appreciate, is then when you return to work, you're sacrificing, you know, a lot of your career progression. But she's absolutely smashed it. She's doing so well. She's got, you know, a really great job with a great company, and, you know, I think that's just so inspiring to, you know, just seeing like the amount of hard work that she's put into it, while also balancing all the other motherly matriarchal duties that she has within the family. So, and it's a big family.
That's amazing. Yeah, mums are just fantastic, aren't they? Shout out mum. Thank you, Christina. No, that's brilliant. Amy, was there
I had someone, I kind of again maybe went a bit more of a different route. I had, when I first started, a woman who was my producer, who was my work mum. You know, she taught me everything. She supported me stretched me and was really kind of who I wanted to be when I grew up type thing. And I can honestly look back and say I would not be here without her and her support and things like that. So I think that, yeah, to me, like that's who I really just inspires me, keeps me going.
Love it. Thank you, Amy. Really, yeah, that's cool. You guys inspire me. That's that's
Let's not forget everyone here, right? Yeah. When you hear everyone's stories, I'm inspired.
Amazing.
Ren's eyeshadow inspires me.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's incredible. All right, I'm going to move on a little bit in a different direction. I think this one is maybe geared a little bit towards the lovely Jill and Amy. I think it's a somewhat challenging one to bring up, but it's something that we've definitely spoken about in the past as being really important to talk about. It's kind of difficult to phrase as a question, but like I mentioned before, we have to recognize that as women in this industry, we face just inherent different issues than men, as far as things like menopause, maternity, menstrual cycles, and probably like a whole host of other things that I can't think of. So I suppose like my question is, how important do you think it is to normalize these issues in a professional capacity, and is there anything that studios or individuals can better do to support women facing the same kind of issues? I know it's a big question, and we don't have to, you know.
I wrote some notes on this.
I love you can kick off then, Amy, and I'll chip in.
Just tell me when to stop. I was thinking about, because yeah, it's such a big issue, and I think it's so important because, like we're saying, it's like, you know, women and men we are different in many ways, same in so many ways, but different in so many ways, and those differences should be valued and I guess, yeah, we should use them to our advantage, right? We should work together and find, it's celebrated. There you go. But it's hard, even being a woman, to see that in each other. And it kind of, so I kind of, when I was thinking about this, I kind of was reminded of the fact that, so when I was a production coordinator back in the 1800s, and you know, it was a small studio, and everyone was significant, like quite a lot older than me at the time. But then they hired in a producer who was only a few years older, and she had a kid. And this producer was just lovely, really liked her. But I found myself getting really resentful of the fact that she would leave at 5. And there I was sitting until 7 o'clock every night. And I'm like, where's she? What's she doing? Just because she's got a kid, so she can leave work early. What is this? And I can't tell you. It took me years to realize. I think it was when I became a producer, even before having kids. But like when I became a producer, I realized she was leaving at 5. She was going to pick up her child. She was taking her child home. She was bathing that child. She was feeding that child. She was trying to put that child to bed. And then she was going back onto her laptop, and she was delivering all the files that I prepared for her, emailing the clients, maybe jumping on a client call. And then that would be her whole evening, bed, and then start it all again. Whereas I left work at 7, and then I was, you know, I don't know, gone out drinking or something at the time. And I think back, and it's like we never, this was back in the like 2010s, and it's like there was no celebration, or there was no recognition of the fact that having a child is another job. And I know you said it's maybe silly to say now, but it was just, I never recognized it, even though my mother was a single mother, working mother. I still never really connected all of those things together. And I kind of like cross with myself about it. And I look back and I just admire her kind of work ethic and what she did. So when I first became a producer, when I got, here's your big break, you can produce a project, $1 million trailer. It didn't go very well. It went great, but you know, it was a little bit of a boo-boo show. You still haven't told me if I can swear or not, but so I'm going to err on this side of caution. And then I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, oh gosh, right? So am I making a choice here? Am I making this choice to have a family? And what do I do with my career? And then when I'm reading all about it, it's like, you can have it all. You can be a mother in this day and age, and you can have a career, and you can do all of this. Okay, I can do it. I think I can do it. And then then you have a baby, and it's like, what fresh hell is this, right? Because it's not. It's like, it's a little bag of flesh that can't do anything and needs you, and is so reliant. I was just saying to my friend who's had a baby, I was like, it's funny that all the other animals in the world, they like within a week their children can fly or get up and run, and then we as humans, being these like highly intelligent mammals, just have
just fall over.
Yeah, we just can't. But I think like it all comes when I went back to work, I was really worried because I was like, well, who am I? I've lost myself. I was Amy, and now I'm mummy. And it's like, am I still Amy within this? Am I Amy the producer? Am I Amy, like, who am I? And it's a big identity crisis because you don't know. You have to kind of find yourself again, and it can take years to do that because you everyone wants something a little bit different. And so going back to work was like this, can I do this? How do I balance this taking this kid to nursery, leaving work on time in a job that needs me to be on client calls at between 5 and 7 p.m., that I've got to be picking the kid up and things like that. And I was very lucky, you know, I did have a company that understood kind of a bit of what I was going through, and kind of would like supportive. It's like, what do you want? I think though, at the same time, there was another producer who had a baby about 6 weeks before me, and she went back to work before I did, and she had already left the job by the time I went back to work. And it made it all the more scary because I was sitting there going, why did she leave? Was she forced out? Did they not, like they say they're going to be supportive. What is it really in there if I can't deliver what I was delivering before, does that mean I'm also going to be out or whatever? Like I couldn't quite piece it together. And I realized, well, my kind of takeaway from the whole thing was I really set parameters for myself on like, this is what I'm willing to do. This is how I'm going to like plan my life around it. And I think she was throwing herself trying to accommodate and be the person she was before, but you're not the person you were before. And what I think work could have done differently is helped her set those parameters for herself, because I think people, you know, it's our job as managers or in the workplace to kind of say, to recognize that there is a difference, and we need to kind of, if you've got the experience, or try and bring people in who do have the experience to sit and say, this was my experience, this is how I can help you, this is the things I would watch out for, you know, coming back, watch out for trying to do the same amount, or learn to delegate more, or being flexible with your working arrangements, right? I think it's all these sorts of things, which as companies, it's our job to help new parents establish, but as then the new parents, we have to allow ourselves to go through that change and accept it. And then that's why it's like surrounding yourself with whether they're mothers or not, surround yourself with people who can help you. It's like you don't have to be alone in all of this. So that was only a little bit of my note.
I love it. No, that's great. I feel, yeah. You've hit the nail on the head. I think like that's absolutely fantastic. I feel like I'm absorbing so much information for for myself for later. Thank you so much, Amy. It's brilliant. Jill, was there anything was there anything from you?
Well, I think Amy's kind of covered, I guess, the perspective from a new mother returning to work, so I'll kind of maybe try and cover the business side of things from a support perspective. So I think it's important to say that anyone that returns from maternity leave has a right to return, has a right to return to the job as it was previously. At the same time, they have a right to request flexible working arrangements, as does, I guess, anyone. And I guess you kind of have a right to have that request considered and rationalised and whatnot as to whether it can be taken on board and how that might shape the kind of a working arrangements going forward. Aside from that, I think it's up to the businesses ultimately, how much discretionary enhanced leave they want to give in and around leave for dependent leave, unpaid leave through summer, which I've seen people use in the past, where they kind of want to take like the 6 weeks off when the kids are off school, because quite simply it's cheaper for them to take unpaid leave than pay for childcare for 6-7 weeks. Do you know what I mean? So that there's I guess, and it's up to individual businesses how much they feel they can support and offer. But I think there's I guess a general culture of flexibility and an understanding and an acknowledgement of the different working circumstances that different members of the team find themselves in. At the same time, there needs to also be, I guess, consistency and fairness in terms of the support that's given, so that no one can be saying, this person got that, that there has to be a kind of a line in the sand that a business feels like they can support and offer in these types of circumstances. But yeah, I think an openness and a willingness from a business to acknowledge and support, women returning to work after having a kid or just needing extra flexibility to support, home situations and home life, is something that can be worked in and around a business.
Definitely,
for the most part.
In fact, just to kind of add to that, because I kind of put in here, and I think it's a really important point. It's like work needs to be flexible. We must also forget that it's not as employees. That doesn't mean we can take advantage of it, right? It's like we also need to make sure that we're prioritizing and delivering what we can, having those conversations about like I can't keep up as much as this. I need to like slow down a little bit, or whatever the case may be, being upfront with those things. But it's a two-way street, and it's like I think a work can only be as flexible as if you're kind of still bringing that to the table, and it's maybe, like I said, like something different than it was before, but you are still bringing something to the table, and I think that's kind of really important.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And I think it's just great to talk about it as well in kind of like an open form. Some of these conversations I feel like are kept a little bit hush hush. So yeah, it's really great. Thank you. I had one here. It's a question that's come up a lot in our separate chats, and I think while we joke about a certain amount of like trauma bonding maybe is kind of healthy, I kind of, without going too much into it, I think we suggested like a little show of hands, which was like if anybody's ever experienced like a negative or maybe like inappropriate behavior in the workplace. I know that it's been a little show of hands for me as well. Yeah, I mean that's like almost all of us, and I think whatever these situations might have been like for all of us, my question is, what advice would you give to your younger self in these situations, or anybody who might be going through the same thing or have gone through has previously gone through the same thing, because I think hindsight is 2020 And I'm constantly reflecting on, those situations. But yeah, maybe, I don't know. Does anybody want to start us off on that one? I know it's a scary one.
I was going to wait for someone else because I've talked too much.
I don't know, Rin. I don't know if it's a question for you.
I'm not sure I'm the best person to talk about that, because I did face that, but I still don't have an answer, more so a universal answer. But I think my general advice, even though we need to acknowledge that in different countries and in different companies, there is a different level of culture and recognition that women are supposed to be and should be treated with respect. But in general, just before going into any position that like feels more safe for you, as I mentioned, I try to be like a bro, tolerant to all the like bro talk and everything like that. Before doing that, just try to assess how uncomfortable it makes you, and if it's something that can kind of like a joke can be a joke, but it can be a very terrible joke, and you shouldn't treat it like a joke in this case if it makes you very uncomfortable. And if something makes you very uncomfortable, I think it's worth building your borders, and like maybe not like going right or straight away to HR or be quick with judgment or anything or using any like harsh words, but at least just say it out loud. And it's scary, but sometimes it works. Just say it out loud. I don't like that. I don't appreciate it. Can you please just keep it away from me? And in some situations it helps. In some situations nothing really helps. And there might be, it's not an advice, but it's just the option to have in mind that you always can look for a better place to work and try to find a workplace that makes you feel comfortable and makes you feel heard, seen, valued, respected, and the workplace that recognizes what you bring to the table, basically.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rin. Yeah, I think it's important to say, like, that did, like, people are different. I'm not very good at confrontation, but I think like when it's happened to me before, I've like recognized that, oh, like that did happen, and I'm luckily enough, I'm in a position where I can just not speak to that person again. So like saying it out loud if you can, but also like recognizing it internally and saying, I hated that, thanks. But yeah, thank you so much. I don't know if anybody else had a kind of a point on that topic.
I mean, I don't mind I think like based on what Amy was saying earlier about having a work mum, I think there's like I just realised we've reached a milestone in our followers, so we'll just have a little moment for that celebration. Nice. But what Amy was saying earlier about having a work mum, I think there's like a really there's a lot to be said about sisterhood and sharing experiences with your like fellow employees. And like I mean, when I had my own work mum, she was, like I think it's very awkward when you're the one that something's happened to, then you're having to do the confrontation as well. And sometimes you might be able to find someone that can maybe, especially if it's someone who's in a position of power in the someone higher up that's then able to kind of talk to them on your behalf or kind of address things in a more professional manner and in a kind of escalate it a little bit higher and have them talk to that person for you. So I think that kind of, if you kind of feeling awkward about it, or it kind of alleviates that kind of stress, because that is a stressful environment to confront someone. And I hear a dog. Dog or gremlin? It sounded like my dog.
To be honest,
in a stressful environment too.
We all have a dog next to our table, so who is it?
Yeah. She's cute. But yeah, no, that's cool. I think there's the sisterhood is, I think, very strong to to rely on, and yeah, most people always back you up and have you there, as you know, will you know, or like you say, do those awkward things for you if you're not comfortable doing it yourself.
Definitely.
I think it's important to do you know, something rather than kind of just trying to pretend it didn't happen or avoid the person, because I guess ultimately they're gonna continue doing it, and they'll find someone else to do it too, you know, and because they can, and they're not being held to account for their behaviour. So, but you know, that's easier said than done, and I think it's finding a way to, as you say, Christina, not necessarily confront the person directly, but finding someone that you trust to speak up and I guess get a perspective on in terms of how you can deal with it. But you know, I would always recommend trying to deal with it where possible, so that the person doesn't feel like they can just continue with that type of behaviour. They need to be held to account where possible.
Definitely. Thank you, Jill. That's great. Thanks, you guys. I'm going to dive into some questions from the community. We had a couple of questions come through on Discord, which was very, very, very exciting. Maybe this one is more of a question for our artists, so Rin and Melissa. Somebody asked, well, it was from Crafts. Crafts asked, there's an ongoing discussion that's been around for years as to how women are portrayed in the arts, such as video games and other popular media. Do you as artists sometimes find yourself needing to think outside the box when it comes to drawing women to avoid the kind of generic attractive woman people will sometimes complain about? Or do you just continue on and not get too worried about stuff like that? It's a big question. It's another big question.
It is a big question. I can start though. Sure. The portraying of women in games, I feel, was like I will be a little bit boring here, but like it evolved alongside with how society evolved in terms of how it sees women, and it's a very parallel discussion. And also there was a time in history where the game industry was mostly catering for the male gamers and for the male taste, and that brought us this stereotypical like attractive woman that has little to nothing to do with the real one. It was just like this image that was pleasing to look at, and like, yeah, Lineage dark elves were running with their butt sticking like higher than the ears probably all the time, and I played that and I was weirded out by that. But at that point I was a very like minor fraction of the whole like gamer pool, and now we have a gamer pool, for example, if we're talking about women in games. Specifically, we have roughly 50-50 right now. So it doesn't mean that we should get rid of all the sexualized images, and like we all like to look at beautiful people, but considering that it's 50-50 now, we can allow ourselves to be more free with the depiction of the characters that we like. And I kind of have this argument towards that we literally, like, who played GTA, for example, we were looking at this like balding head for the whole game, and that like saggy pants and all that glory, you know, and still played it, and no one was saying, oh, you're ugly. And I can't even count, like we talked about favorite female characters, but if we talked about favorite male characters, they will come in all colors, shapes, races, species, because like literally if you look at Garrus without context, it is an ugly ass model. Honestly, it's very old, it's very dated, and it's painful to look at, but that was my biggest crush of all times in games, I think. And the same goes for like Detroit Becomes Human, and a very questionable like a very questionable character, basically, like a drunk old overweight dude with like questionable morals and very like down spirits, but we loved him dearly. And the same goes, I can go and remember other characters. For example, I don't know how many people here played Disco Elysium. If you didn't, please do, because this is a fantastic piece of art, basically. Not just a game, it's an amazing experience. And the character in that one is a drinking cop at the end of his like wits and everything, basically. And he is a disgrace, and he is disgraced by looking at himself in the mirror even. But I still love him so much, and I would love to continue the evolution of the female characters in the same vein, that they can be very different, they can go through different things in their lives, and it will leave their mark on them, and we still will be happy to go through their story, and they will be portrayed appropriately to this kind of story if it just calls for it. But we also can have our like Widowmakers if we love them, because we love them, we love how they look, we love to play them. It also kind of feels good to play, you know, like femme fatale kind of stuff. So I would just say that I don't have currently the problem with depiction any of those sides. I will be just happy to have more opportunities and more projects that start with a story that warrants bringing in a female character that is more like relatable, or even if not relatable, but just like very like textury, maybe older one, maybe like not conventionally pretty, with not conventionally feminine aims and all this stuff. I hope I'm making sense right now.
Absolutely. You just externalized every single thought I've ever had. So thank you so much.
Yeah, so
everything apart from Garrus.
it literally like stinged. Like I felt the dagger in my heart when I was saying that. I was just trying to detach it, but like I was crying when I was saying goodbye to him at that particular scene. If someone is going to play Mass Effect for the first time, yeah, you will see that scene. Probably you will cry too. And like I literally was planning to have a house with him a minute before, and then I had to say goodbye. It break. Yes, like Garrus is, yeah, my love till the end of times, and this is what I want to see. Like Tali actually was kind of close to that. She still is very attractive lady with a very nice voice and everything, but at least she had kind of alien features, and we didn't see her face most of the time. So I believe you can see her face only if you romance her in game, then you have like a photo or something. So that is a step in a good direction, but not enough. So I'm looking forward to female characters that are as like rough around the edges as the guy from Disco Elysium. And I will be happy to play them.
Definitely. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Melissa, was there anything from your kind of perspective on that, how you approach drawing?
Not much, because I usually try to pick whatever I want. I like creatures, I like textures, and pretty girls you cannot put random spots, random hues on their face, because it's gonna look out of that shape. And
I would argue though. You can. I will.
I actually always pick creatures and something that get more organic to nature stuff. I guess I could pick, but I cannot be hypocrite either, because I like staring at the muscular man in games. And if I am not to do what I do now, I will be drawing fan arts of my favorite anime dudes, and they will be all really handsome and muscular and non-realistic. So I have maybe guy artists like to paint pretty girls with exaggerated features. I would do the opposite thing for the balance of universe.
I love that. Keeping it consistent. I love it. Thank you. I think we can in a moment we'll close out, but before we do, there was one question that might be more for Jill, if it's okay. We had a question from Linsha in the Discord, and they said, during an interview do you consider the question, do you plan to have children, as a red flag or a normal question? Whether it's one or the other, what is the best way to answer?
Well, I think in a more general sense, is like there's definitely a few topics that prospective employers or should not be asking during an interview. You know, it's not appropriate to ask it, but also from the business perspective, you know, they could be totally running the risk of an allegation of discrimination. So the topics that generally tend to be and should be avoided at an interview stage would be the themes relating to protected characteristics, which are covered under the UK Equality Act. I believe the US, you know, has something similar. So in that regard, I guess being asked anything about your health specifics is not okay. And technically, you could be asked, can your ability to do a certain type of activity because of the needs of an essential task within the role, that's okay. But to be asked generally about your health status is generally considered something that should be avoided. You shouldn't be asked like your date of birth, your age, your race, where you were born, your religion, your beliefs, all of that kind of stuff should not be asked or considered as part of an interview or recruitment process. You also shouldn't be asked about your marital status, your sexual orientation or preferences, or indeed whether you have or plan to have children. You know, that these things should not be asked. You could be asked if there's any responsibilities that would interfere with your attendance at work, for example, but you should never be asked explicitly about family status. It's not appropriate, and you know, I would very much consider that a red flag if you were asked any of these types of things during an interview process. It's just not okay.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought there is a proper rule for that, because they ask you all these kind of things either way.
Yeah,
No,
but it just doesn't make
be.
them right, honestly. Yeah, it's just such an invasive question, and it's none of your business.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's not appropriate. I would suggest that if you were asked something like that, you know, you find a way to sort of say like, I don't think that's appropriate to be asked that. And
oh, my kitchen dishes are waiting. 5 minutes to get there, and just like run away from that interview.
So I hope that clarifies, you know, if you're asked that type of thing, you know, you should be politely declining the need to respond.
Perfect. Thank you, Jill. No, that's great. And I hope that helps Lincha. That's brilliant. I guess it's almost time to close out the stream. I thank you so much for everybody for being here and watching us. There was one final question to close out, and from Big Grog, who was in the Discord, which was just if there was any other kind of final advice, maybe like a key nugget of knowledge that you would give to any women watching who might want to be in your position one day. Any kind of final tips or advice you would give for someone who might be early on in their career or facing some of the same career obstacles as you guys did. I don't know who's
If I'm in my shoes, what I would tell myself is to all this confidence I lost when I was a kid due to all the people saying women are not as worthy and not as good, that got crushed at my early age. Just be more confident, try to go and do the thing. Don't be shy. There is nothing wrong to go and speak for yourself, ask for this, ask for that, do that, go out. And actually there was nothing to fear and go out. I'm working always like freelance with foreign people, with other countries, and I didn't have any problems or anything that would, oh, this is wrong, I shouldn't do that. Always go ask, interact. It's usually going to be fine and good for you. So build that confidence again.
Definitely. Thank you, Melissa. That's great. Anybody else? Is anybody, maybe Amy? I don't know if you...
I'm sure I can think of something. I think it's actually kind of similar, because I think it's finding that like find that inner confidence, or fake it till you make it, right? Is 100% a thing. And so even if you don't feel it, take a deep breath and say what you want to say, that's in your gut to say. Someone else is bound to be thinking it. Someone else might never have thought of like the idea or the situation. And you know what? The only person you're doing a disservice to by not doing that is yourself. It's like we're all our own worst enemies, right? We think things through too much and over again. We go caught up in like what's happening up here. It's like I would be saying that to myself. Just let go of what's up here and just speak from what you feel, and don't be afraid. Like what's the worst thing that can happen? And if the worst thing that can happen by saying what you're going to say is, you know, achievable, or they're going to think I'm an idiot, so what? You know, like it's not that they're probably not, that you probably are thinking that they think you're an idiot and they won't even think about it beyond 2 seconds after you said it. So just don't overthink, say what's on your mind, and just fight yourself, trying to just fight holding yourself back, you know. I'm still trying to teach myself that.
I've watched a really good TED talk. I'm just googling in the background. It's a social psychologist lady called Amy Cuddy, depending if you're Scottish pronouncing the name or not. Power posing, and the TED talk's really interesting. Like, and it's kind of that fake it till you make it, standing in a posture of confidence, even when you don't feel confident, totally boosts your feeling of confidence, and kind of doing that before you're getting into like an important meeting or a meeting where you feel like you have to speak up, you've got to say something important within a group of peers, and you're feeling nervous. Like, go into the toilet, find a mirror, go and stand, do that kind of a power pose thing, look yourself in the eye. It's like, and you're sort of building yourself up, and the more you do that, you start to believe it. And it's a really interesting TED talk. You should give it a watch, for anyone who's kind of going in and having those feelings of self-doubt, and trying to find that inner voice, find that inner confidence. As Amy says, fake it till you make it. And this TED talk definitely gives you those type of vibes, and you're getting that, like, yeah, let's do it. It's cool.
I love that.
You could also watch Ted Lasso, right? It's like a big
real
theme
about
that, like going and really like
you think of like the the Wonder Woman pose, do you know what I mean? Like, that's the one that immediately comes into my mind, where she's standing, and it's like, and again it comes down, when you think about the type of work that we do, and the posing of characters within a composition, or even within like a design portfolio, tells a story. And that's true in real life as well. So think about that when you need to give yourself like a self-confidence boost.
Definitely, that's perfect. It's crazy how we can trick our minds, isn't it? I think it's really interesting. That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much, you guys. I think that's about all that we've got time for. I really appreciate everybody for watching, and like all of your questions. They were so great to talk about. I just want to say a huge thank you to all of our guests, my wonderful Mooncolony women. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and discuss all of these really important topics with me on such an important day. Oh, thank you. It was great. It was really great. Job. Thank you so much. Thank you. And the dog for interrupting. It was great.
It's not even my dog. The funniest part is, like, I don't even own a dog, and she's somehow
just come in.
Just like running off the street.
It's very fun.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Our next stream will be on Wednesday. It's a professional portfolio review stream with Mooncolony's founder and creative director, Emra. He'll be talking about some of the professional portfolios that he likes that are really great, and some artists that inspire him too. So it's going to be fantastic. Make sure you tune in for that. Once again, thank you, everybody. Have an absolutely smashing weekend, and happy International Women's Day, I guess. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Bye.
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 You guys.
Bye.